Hi, welcome to my latest YouTube video or podcast. I'm Ross Rosenberg. I'm the owner of Self-Love Recovery Institute and the author of The Human Magnet Syndrome. Today I'm going to talk about an idea, a philosophy, a concept that was inspired by my observe, don't absorb technique. And it's called managing your expectations. But before I begin, let me give you a quick summary of observe, don't absorb, or ODA. Observe, don't absorb is a defensive technique that is based upon George Bernard Shaw's saying, if you wrestle with pigs, you'll get dirty, and besides, the pig likes it. Observe, don't absorb creates a sense of power and strength by not reacting to a narcissist's provocations, where the reaction weakens you, the fight disables you, the resistance moves you into a place where the narcissist has the most strength. So by observing the narcissist trying to provoke you or antagonize you, to get you into an argument, to get you mad, and understanding that if you do get mad, you're going to lose. You're going to be wrestling with the pig in their wrestling ring, and you're going to get dirty, and the pig's going to be happy. So that's ODA. I estimate probably, I'll say about 100 times, I told a story of my family in order to exemplify a point of observe, don't absorb. And this story is about an offshoot of ODA, and it's about managing expectations. Before I tell you the story, let me explain what I mean by managing expectations, and then I'm going to go into it in more depth. So now that we understand observe, don't absorb, and the person who is in a relationship with someone who's pathologically narcissistic knows that their strength is through observation, or what I call healthy disassociation, that they can effectively be with that person and not be pulled into a place of conflict, weakness, despair. So we get that. When you manage your expectations, you have proactively thought about it, discussed it, studied how the narcissist enables his agenda, how he or she is able to take control, take power away, influence others against you, triangulate. You know that their primary strategies are varied and unique to their pathology, because as many of you know, that term pathological narcissist means either narcissistic, borderline, or antisocial personality disorder. And so there's a variety of different types of narcissists, and within each type of narcissist, there's a variety of different types and personalities, personal characteristics. And so now that you've mastered observe, don't absorb, and you know that you have to interact with a narcissist, either because you want to interact with them or you don't have a choice. Because I say this to a lot of people, observe, don't absorb is not just a technique that allows you to protect yourself, to avoid narcissists, and to end, terminate, or even distance yourself from a relationship. It's how to keep yourself safe when you don't have any alternative but to be in close proximity to the narcissist. For example, a business meeting, a family event, a social event where you're among many people and you love the event, you love the family, you enjoy the business event, or you have to be in the business event, and there's always a narcissist or two. And if you would avoid that narcissist, that could hurt you both financially, personally, socially, or your reputation. So then you decide that you're going to build a defense strategy so that they don't get power and control over you. And since power and control relies on them getting a reaction from you, or even if they're not trying to get a reaction from you, that you give it to them, that is going into the wrestling ring. There are two types of wrestling ring. There's the physical wrestling ring and the emotional wrestling ring. The physical wrestling ring is when it has to do with everything you do or not do. Yell, cry, pout, silent treatment, email, phone call, talk to other people. Anything that can be done in order to resist or fight back. Get into the wrestling ring, physical wrestling ring. The emotional wrestling ring is when they're in your head and you're at a party and that person, the narcissist, is not saying anything, and you're like stewing on how much they try to control you, or you're thinking about everything that they say bad about you, or you're going over these gaslit narratives that you don't even know you're gaslit about what they said about your weakness, you being pathetic, and you get upset about it. And the wrestling ring for the physical wrestling ring is you get upset about it. So you don't want to get into the wrestling ring. So for situations where you have to be around narcissists or you want to be around narcissists, you have to manage your expectations. And that is the crucial point of this video. Observe, don't absorb is the primary defensive strategy with which managing your expectations is combined. So let's talk about the business meeting. You have an arrogant and pushy boss who likes to take credit for everyone else's accomplishments. And if you should say something in front of the group, the meeting, and you out your boss, you might lose your job, or you might lose a promotion, or you might have some other negative consequence. And you know that. So you go into that meeting with the expectation that he is probably going to exploit something that you did. And that if you get mad, you will actually make yourself look worse. And you will go down this rabbit hole of emotions that basically puts you in a wrestling ring and ultimately make you look worse and him or her look better. So those expectations are, if he should explain something that he did that was yours, that you quietly nod your head, don't have any facial expression, and then after the meeting, you will talk to key individuals and let them know the truth in a way that will not trigger the narcissist to openly hurt you through hostility, vengeance, and this motivation to exact revenge. Another example of managing your expectations is there's a family event and your parent will say your father is pathologically narcissistic. You have developed and mastered observe, don't absorb, and you've done it quite well. He will skim over your accomplishments. He will ignore what you're saying, and he will praise other people, other siblings. And you know this. You've already used observe and absorb when he does it, and understand that if you get upset, he knows that, he wants that, makes him feel good, it emboldens him, and it makes the other people to whom he's showing praise feel justified in getting the praise, and then you get to prove to them, and I quote, prove that you deserve those negative comments. And that is the primary double bind that SLDs or codependents are put in. But what if you observe, didn't absorb it? He says, oh, okay, that was good, and turns to his other child and says, tell Ross about all the things that you've done. They're awesome. And you react and observe and absorb, and you use what I call my of course technique. And I have videos and podcasts on that already. That's what he does in order to get you upset, to activate your anger, your resentment, your hurt. And that makes you want to fight back. And now everyone sees you get mad, look hurt, and then you scold him, berate him, you get defensive, you walk away, and you got into the wrestling ring and you lost. But since you managed your expectations, you went in there knowing, well, this will happen. You know it. And you know that your dad is going to try to humiliate you, demean you, or diminish you. You know it. But you made a decision that you want to be at that family event. And that's the important part of this whole discussion, is you make a decision that you have to be in the event, have to be at this point in the relationship, have to have a relationship, and it has value to you, or the consequences for ending it are greater than the consequences for staying in it. So you manage your expectations. You know what's going to happen. He ignores, demeans, ridicules your accomplishment, and you observed, you didn't absorb it. You're watching the narcissist try to hurt you, and you do the of course response. And I do recommend, of course, saying under your breath or in your head. The of course response always is better when you chuckle inside. And trust me, when you master this, you do smile inside because you feel strong and powerful that you've recognized something and you are maintaining your strength and equanimity. And so you do your of course response, and then you look at the other people and see their response, and you see them kind of like ravenous piranhas eating up the praise, and all of a sudden you notice they're looking at you kind of quizzically, like, what's going on with Ross? He's not mad. And you just smile and act like nothing happened. Managing your expectations is to understand who everyone is. This person, and we're talking about dysfunctional families, dysfunctional systems. This is not just, and you could use this in normal, regular scenarios, but that's not what I'm talking about, is knowing who everyone is in a relationship system, what they want to do, and how they're going to do it. So in the case of a boss that I once had, who was an alcoholic and who was, I believe, had narcissistic personality disorder, I had made a mistake. This was 25 years ago, so I didn't develop any of these ideas. I gave her some constructive feedback about how she was being demeaning and disrespectful to me. And what I didn't expect was a huge narcissistic injury and the beginning of this campaign to try to get me fired. It completely blew me away. And I then understood that if I confront her about anything more, I'm going to lose my job. So in that moment, I managed my expectation. Oh, I should add that her best friend was the VP or the CEO of the company, VP of operations, and that there was no opportunity for me to complain about her. So my expectation was, if I stand up to her and defend myself, I will get fired on the spot. I had to find other ways to protect myself. And according to my expectations, I couldn't, because she was actively going to try to find a way to get me fired. So that is when I started looking for a job. And when she started to do everything, naturally I was upset, but I was using, before I even understood, observe, don't absorb, observe, don't absorb. I knew that if she got me mad, it would be giving her a cue that she was hurting me, which is what she wanted, and she was controlling me, and that she was punishing me. And so I would just go blank, because I'm observing, I'm not letting her inside. I would hear what she had to say, and then I would do my best to get it done, knowing that I couldn't get it done well enough. I managed my expectations. The classic story that I use, and I've told this probably hundreds of times in my therapy, and I'm going to change the characters and the names so that I don't really talk badly about my family, but there's a resemblance. I had decided to terminate all of my relationships with my family after a tremendously egregious, hurtful, painful, disrespectful set of actions that my father did in collaboration with my siblings in order to steal from me, to take things that were supposed to be mine. And it was done in a way that hurt me so badly, because up until that moment, my expectations were that everyone in my family would be fair, honest, and loyal when it came to the distribution of assets. Someone was dying in my family. And so when it happened, I was mortified. I was broken that my father and my siblings would actively plot to keep everything for themselves and not to me. And I was the codependent in the family. I was the SLD. I was the one that was always helping everyone. And so the injustice was just horrible. I was beside myself. Talk about needing therapy. And I would get mad and angry and fight and argue. And every time I got in the wrestling ring, I proved to them that I deserved to not get anything. I proved the narrative that my father created, that the reason Ross should get anything is because he's got anger problems. It's just part of the double bind that narcissists put you in. So it took a little while, but I started to exercise my observe, don't absorb technique, and I decided to end the relationships, or at least stop them, for a couple of years. And then one day I get a call from my brother, and he says, it was actually 5 years. I get a call from my brother and says, we're having a family reunion. And I became excited. And a friend of mine who knows everything that's going on, a very close friend of mine, was confused. Ross, why are you excited? After all of what your family did, how could you be excited about this? And I said, I never wanted to be an orphan. All I wanted was my family to not hurt me. And because they wouldn't stop, I had to end the relationship. But this is an opportunity for me to be around my family. They invited me, and I'm going to go there and have a good time. And I expect, and here's the important part, I expect everyone to be who they are. I know that this person is going to act arrogant, condescending, and disrespectful. This person is going to ask me how I'm doing and say that they love me, but then in the middle of a conversation, do something to the opposite. The other one is going to tell me we should get together sometime and go fishing. And why don't I ever return phone calls? And then he's going to eventually try to get me mad so that I can react in a way that is going to justify why he actually won't do it. I knew it all. I went in there and I was so happy to be around a family of people who were oblivious to their problems. In a sense, had no awareness of what they did to me, and they felt like victims, narcissists. And I went there and no one disappointed me. One sibling invited me over. Hey, come here, come sit, tell me what's going on. And I sat down, and in the middle of the conversation, he started talking to someone else. Observe, don't absorb. Expectations. He was going to do that. I got up, I smiled, said, of course, and I just walked around and I went to another sibling. By the way, this part is all true. And I gave her a big hug and I said, I love you, because I was in that moment, present moment. I was not connected to the past, and I was going to enjoy being with them. And I do love them. It's just, I didn't want to be hurt by them. Gave her a big hug and she goes, Rossi, hey, what's going on? I haven't seen you so long. You don't call me anymore. Observe, don't absorb, Ross. Don't get defensive. Don't try to tell her that why you don't call her, or don't confront her about her not calling you. Just smile. Observe, don't absorb. And I smiled. And she goes, so what's new? And I started telling her about something. And in the middle of that conversation, she turned her view to someone else and started talking to them. And I smiled and I gave her a hug and a kiss on the cheek. And I said, hey, sis, I'll talk to you later. Walked away, wasn't mad, because I knew that was going to happen. She couldn't hurt me. And then another sibling came up to me, sitting on a chair, puts his arms around me. This was the affectionate sibling, and kisses me on the forehead. He goes, hey, bro, you know I love you. And this sibling, worst of all, showed no evidence of loving me based upon the events of the past. Observe, don't absorb. He's trying to be nice. Don't confront him, hear what he has to say, and understand he has no power. And I actually felt warmth and love because I didn't let him trigger my feelings. Would have normally said, how can you love me after you did this? Why are you touching me and kissing me? How can you do that after you did this, this, and that? But I was in the moment. My full expectations were, this is who he is. He's trying to be nice. You can't change him. Enjoy the moment. And I said, hey, bro, I love you too. And I went home that evening with a huge smile on my face. And I talked to my friend. He goes, well, how did it go? I go, I had a blast. And he looked at me like, what? I said, everyone was exactly what I expected them to be. No changes. The only difference is they weren't purposefully trying to antagonize me, which actually is a good thing. And no one got me upset. No one surprised me. This person was arrogant and selfish and demeaning. This person was controlling. This person lied. And by the way, there was a lot more events that happened that I did more observe than absorb. I got a chance to be around my dysfunctional family, and I felt like I had a family again. And then my friend said, oh, okay, so now are you going to start talking to them again? I said, no. And he was confused. And I went over with him. And again, this is about managing your expectations. I said to my friend, I said, listen, I didn't go there with the expectation that they would do something that would make me forgive them or make all the things go away, make all my resentment and anger go away. That was not my expectation. My expectation was to stay in the moment and enjoy people who were not actively trying to hurt me. I did, but they still stole from me. They still are liars, not all of them, manipulators or selfish. And that changed the history of my life. And that story, that event, helped galvanize this set of ideas of observe, don't absorb. The of course method, managing your expectations, and finding ways that you can be around people who are pathologically narcissistic and enjoying yourself while not having to be in denial, while not getting subsumed or lost in a gaslit narrative. So in conclusion, your reality can change if you step out of the victim role and understand that when you are in a victim role, that everyone does this, that, and the other, and they'll never say they're sorry, they don't have empathy, they don't like you, respect you, and you understand that these people are who they are. And if there is value in being around them, where the positives outweigh the consequences, then all you have to do is adjust your expectations, and take away their power to hurt you. Because if they are this type of person and you know it and you sincerely believe it's not about you, that's the key. You have to get to that point, and that's where psychotherapy works. And you know it's not about you, you can go there and enjoy the relationship for what it is in the moment and control them trying to hurt you purposely or accidentally by watching them say something that hurts you and understanding, of course, this is what narcissists do. This is what insecure people do. This is what dishonest people do. And you might not go home with a big smile, a big grin from ear to ear like I did, but you won't go home mad, angry, and deflated. You'll go home feeling strong, empowered. It is your reality. If you expect people to not like you and you understand that they will never like you and that you have a reason to see them, then you can enjoy yourself while they act the fool. You have power. You can let people hurt you, pull you into a wrestling ring, engage you in a fight that you can never win, that will make you feel worse, will make them feel better, and that will prove their narrative about you. Or you can stay strong, happy, and still be connected. So the epilogue to my story, this family story, is I have a good relationship with my family now, and I have not forgiven them for what they did, but I don't let them get into my head, and I manage the environment if they do. I can walk away. I could not talk. I can observe, don't absorb. I expect them to be, and I'm talking about all narcissists in general, I expect them to be who they are. People with a personality disorder are not aware of their problems. People with deeply embedded personality traits aren't aware of their problems. And should they, the shame of that would be so severe, their brain fights really hard to keep it offline, the insight and understanding. So my friends, all the people out there in my self-love recovery community, master, observe, don't absorb, understand the of course method, and practice this idea of managing your expectations. Your life can change, I promise. If you liked this video or podcast, leave comments, leave a review, go to my website, Self-Love Recovery Institute, or selfloverecovery.com, where there are a lot of resources available that will help you more with your own journey in self-love recovery or codependency. Or just drop us an email, make a comment if it's a YouTube video. Be well, have a healthy and happy New Year. Bye-bye.